Alright, good luck. The music should be live, and chat should currently be muted. So yeah, basically we're going over just to give you a short rundown, we're going over Trump's new indictment. Then we're going over some stuff about the war in Ukraine and Ukraine's failing counteroffensive there, and then also gonna pose the age-old question: can nuns make good cheese? In my personal opinion, I think the answer is yes. But we'll be discussing that and also whatever else ends up coming up. It's odd. Music should be playing. All right. Have to mute. Good good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone, and good evening, everyone. Regardless of when you're listening to the show, happy you're listening to the show. Um, Unfortunately for tonight's broadcast, Erica will not be joining us. So instead, I have taken over the duties of hosting and producing. And because of that, there were few, let's just say, delays that had happened, and thus that is why we are starting now instead of when we should have been starting. That being said, happy to see you all here, and I would like to introduce my lovely co-host, Luna. Say hello, Luna.
Hello, hello.
And just to prevent any further missteps, if I may ask my QAZ, were you able to hear Luna say hello? And while I await that, I would like to begin to discuss the very first topic for today: Donald J. Trump. Hero to many, villain to many. Love him, hate him, millions do on both sides of this issue. Was just federally indicted for a third time by one Mr. Jack Smith for
Oh boy.
charges of conspiracy to um, disrupt federal proceeding, I believe the charge was. Various charges relating to January 6th, the January 6th riot that took place at the Capitol, for which Trump had no active part in. Let me just pull up the first of our many tweets up here for all you fine people. A tweet by one Mr. Jonathan Turley, and if you haven't seen it yet, don't worry, I'm just pulling it up now. And this tweet reads, former President Trump has long posted social media comments that undermined his position in court of these administration. The latest is such an example where he declared, "If you go after me, I'm coming after you." Classic Trump behavior.
Yep.
Was made to order. And because of that, a quote protective order was just requested by Mr. Jack Smith, the prosecutor in the case, that immediately went to ask to limit Trump's access to discovery based on. So basically, they're trying to stonewall him from getting discovery. For those who don't know what discovery is, in a legal proceeding, generally in criminal and civil trials, you need to. Both sides have to make everything of relevance known to the other party. You can't hide anything from prosecutors can't hide any potentially exculpatory evidence from defendants.
Yeah, as opposed to like what TV shows, things like that make court cases seem where they're like, oh, I would like to add this as evidence, or I am calling forth like a surprise bit of evidence. Everything has to be there at the very beginning and known to
Yes,
all parties.
there are some special circumstances where maybe evidence that just came up can be brought in without having been first shown to the defense, but these are exceedingly rare circumstances where this ever happens. The vast majority of those requests will get denied.
Yeah, and
If you
pardon
want
my
to see,
pun, but it's on a case by case basis.
yes, it is. If you want to see a very good representation of how the legal system and the justice system actually works, I'd suggest to anyone who wants to see that, watch the movie My Cousin Vinny. It's a comedy. It's a rather really funny comedy at that, but it's also the most accurate film depiction of the U.S. legal system and the judicial system. Hilarious movie, by the way. Joe Pesci is one of the greats, both in comedy and more serious matter. But yeah, they're trying to use Trump's, let's say, proclivity for making it worse for himself by tweeting things in court, and they're trying to use it to limit his discovery.
Mm.
Have you heard of the? I'm sure you have heard of the recent indictments. It's all over the news.
The most recent one? No, I've actually.
Oh,
How recent was it?
a few days ago, I believe. I'd say between a few days and a week. I can't give the exact date, but it's quite recent. It's recent enough that it's kind of the new thing in political discourse on Twitter.
Hmm.
Uh, And yes, I also agree with my QAZ who just said in the chat that it is indeed a great movie. Not that she may be a little biased because me and her watched it together, but I still do highly recommend it. Damn good movie. Now move on to the next tweet, and this one might be getting a little biased, but it's rather true. Would be pretty cool to vote for a political prisoner, though not telling anyone how to vote, or even if you should vote, as some may argue voting should be illegal. I'm not sure how you may feel about that, whether you're pro-voting or anti-voting, but personally, for me, as an anarchist, I do not support the right to vote.
More of a direct action kind of guy?
Well, when I hear the words direct action, I generally think of like Antifa stuff and like violently assaulting people, and in that sense, I wouldn't say I'm pro direct action, but I'm assuming you're using it in a different sense than to what I understand it. Could you
I'm using it
elaborate?
the general broad sense of the term in that, like, make the issues, basically get them actively, like, brought up and like brought to attention and actively changed. Don't just say, "Oh, hey, so this is an issue. We should go vote on it," because chances are that's not going to do much. But if you basically make it no, basically bring it to the forefront to the point that it has to be changed.
Oh, I see. So I would say, I guess, in that sense of the word, then yes, I would be a supporter of direct action. I don't think voting accomplishes much, and even if it did or does, still think it's immoral to impose one. I still think it's immoral for 51% of the populace to impose their will upon 49% of the populace, and in that sense, I am against voting. But I will say, if and when I do move to the US, I will find it very hard not to just, in every election, just write in the words Ron Paul. I am very much a Ron Paul guy. Ron Paul 2012 was kind of the genesis of my more politically active life.
Yeah.
And yes, Stoner, I do agree. Collecting scalps and skull beer caps is indeed awesome. And I also agree with your second point, but I don't think I could say that on YouTube, so it is what
Yep.
it is. Hammer diplomacy. That's an interesting one. If possible, could you elaborate on that, Z? And at some point, I'll like to read what you meant by that. Other than that, oh, since I have a co-host here, let me just ask her. So, what are your thoughts on attempting to prosecute Trump for the events that took place on January 6th, 2021, in the US Capitol?
Well, hmm. I have kind of mixed opinions on that because of the fact of one, he was saying, "Hey, like this," basically kind of like riling people up, but then at the same time, he never actively called for anything.
Yeah, because, like, yeah, he led them there, but on the other hand, he did kind of tell them to remain peaceful, and he didn't actively say, like, hey, go do these things.
He like
And
he never once was like break into the Capitol building or
yeah,
anything like that.
and from my understanding of how First Amendment protections work in the United States, to be guilty of incitement of something, of a crime, you actually have to say to
Like
specific people, hey,
to
go do
do
this
the thing.
specific thing.
Yeah,
And it
otherwise it could be taken up for like individuals' interpretations and things like that.
yes, and it actually gets very, very specific. So in the US, and again, I'm not advocating any of these things, I'm merely using them as an example, so please don't cancel me, YouTube. But you can actually say in the US, we should gas the Jews, and that's protected speech. The only thing that would make it unprotected is if you said to them, hey, you people over there, go gas those specific Jews. That's the only way you can turn speech into a
Yeah,
crime. You have to
that
be
does get into a bit of an area because
yes,
yeah, the Supreme Court has deemed it that basically like actively calling for violence, like basically inciting, is not protected speech.
yes. But to incite, you actually have to. It has to be imminent. You have to incite someone to imminent action, as in like they're capable of doing it. They're capable of doing the specific crime, and then you tell them specifically to do it, and then they do it. Right?
Hmm.
It cannot be in any way vague. Right? If you just said, I guess as Stoner said, kill all the communists, that's still protected because you're not pointing to any specific individuals. You're not saying if you said firebomb that Communist Party headquarters, that would be a crime.
Yeah,
But if you
then
said firebomb the commies, that's not a crime. That's still protected. And in that sense, there is no way in which Donald Trump could be guilty of inciting any of the things that happened on January 6th.
yeah, it's like kind of like I remember seeing this one article that was titled something along the lines of it was like Donald Trump is guilty. The only question now is of it was like what is he guilty of? I remember just
Really?
looking at that and thinking like, okay, first off, I'm not a fan of Donald Trump, but
Mm-hmm.
that's not how the legal system works.
Yep.
It doesn't work like that for me. It doesn't work like that for Joe Schmo down the street. It doesn't work like that for Donald Trump. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't matter if you like them or not. You can't just say, "Oh, this person's guilty," but let's just find something to that he's guilty of. The way that the legal system works is, if you genuinely believe someone is guilty, you bring forth the evidence of one what they're guilty of, and then like the proof that shows that they are guilty in order to say they are guilty. Otherwise, that's
Yes.
just like I could say, "Hey, that person over there is guilty of I don't know what." Because and where's the proof? There's none.
Yep. And it's very, let's just say, Stalin-esque, the opposite approach, right? It's not find it is. I believe the quote from that was, find "you find the man, I'll find the crime," right? It's you know
Yeah.
yeah. You could based on the behemoth that is the U.S. like legal code, you could probably find pick any single person in the U.S. And if you investigated them enough, you could probably find some obscure crime they committed, some violation of some part of the
Yeah, that's
gigantic
something
criminal
along
code.
somewhere. I mean,
Yeah,
hell, I'm I'm in recovery from substance abuse. Just the simple fact that I am means that I'm not admitting to anything, YouTube, but
right.
could have been issues in the past.
Yeah. And if someone had unlimited time and resources to specifically investigate you and dedicate all that time to investigating you, they could probably find something. Wouldn't be
Oh,
very
yeah.
good. As
Mhm.
they could for anyone, really.
Yep. Pretty
And
much, especially with today's like the stance on like or at least definitely was years ago, several years ago on like the marijuana prohibition with the
mm,
majority of Americans where it was like they claimed yes they smoked weed but it's even still like federally illegal.
yep. Is it legal or still illegal in your state specifically?
So medical is legal in my state, but
Yeah.
recreational is not. You have to go up north to Michigan for recreational.
Nice. Um, so and then you definitely don't want to be bringing that back into the state because then you get into all a bunch of like
Then there's the whole
bit.
once it crosses state lines, then
Yeah.
it becomes a federal issue, and you're dealing with even if it's a little bit, technically, you'd be at risk of DEA due to the fact of it being interstate commerce or
Yep.
like going from state to state.
Yeah. You do not want to get caught bringing illegal substances from one state into the other, even in
Three,
tiny amounts.
yeah,
They
three-letter
will.
boys are not ones that you want like coming up on you. DEA, ATF, FBI, things like that. If you're in a situation where they're looking into you, it's not the best. You're not in the best place.
Yeah.
But my opinion on some of those organizations aside,
Mhm.
pretty much all. But
I thought you were going to be going into like another sentence after that, like my opinion on this aside, and then
no, it was just kind of like my opinion on it
oh,
aside, just like
ah,
putting that aside because I'm pretty sure anyone who has followed me on Twitter knows that I am not a fan of, for example, the ATF,
yeah,
especially with their most recent. I know
the
we've covered
dog
them,
killers.
dog killers, just in general, like they're encroaching on the Second Amendment with
Yep.
their rules, like with the pistol brace, and like I said, we talked about this here in the fact that it was a something that was created almost specifically for disabled vets in order to shoot, to allow them to, yet the ATF is imposing a rule as if it's law. And then I know Brendan Herrera had made a point in Congress in the fact of it was just a rule just brought about by the ATF. It needs a congressional hearing, and in order to knock that rule down,
Hmm.
and
And
then of
yes,
course, I believe the NFA is unconstitutional in the fact
of
that
course,
it's just in general encroaching on like Second Amendment rights and uh, again, as pretty much anyone, if they've ever followed me on Twitter, they know that in my opinion all gun laws are uh, racist, sexist,
unconstitutional.
classist, LGBT phobic, misogynist, ableist, all
Yep.
these lists of things. Basically, they are against pretty much any, like they're pro tyranny, they're pro abuser because especially with like red flag laws, people love saying like, oh, red flag laws are great because of the fact of like if you report someone for being an abuser, they won't be able to get a gun. Yeah, but the abuser could then in turn say report the person that they're in a relationship with that they are abusing, put a
Exactly.
false red flag on them, prevent them from being able to defend themselves. That way, they then are like, ah, I know this person is unarmed. They legally can't own a firearm. So they're free picking for me.
Exactly. And well, I don't think there are enough hours in the day for me to say
Yeah.
everything that I wanted to about the ATF and their tyrannical nonsense, but I will say this. The ghosts of Ruby Ridge and Waco are still alive today.
And if anyone wants thinks, oh, the government won't do anything like that, let's just look at uh, the most violent mass shooting in US history. What was that? It was the massacre at Wounded Knee, where
Mm,
I believe it was Lakota. So US Army was transferring a group of Lakota people into a reservation and they went to disarm them. A group of them refused to give up their arms. What resulted was several hundred, I believe several hundred at least. It was over 100 dead men, women, and children, with the majority of them being unarmed.
of course. The government would never do that. It's not like the worst mass murders and genocides in all of human history have been done
Done by
by
government.
governments,
Yep.
right? And while we're just on this topic, another thing I find quite frankly bullshit is that have you ever heard the argument about how why we need waiting periods for guns? Because some asshole can be pissed and go and buy a gun and shoot someone, and that's apparently why we need waiting periods. And
I hear
what
that, or to
mm,
prevent someone from shooting themselves.
exactly what they missed is that sometimes there are people who are in a situation where they desperately need protection immediately, like maybe they're in a seriously abusive relationship and say it's a woman in a seriously abusive relationship with a man and in actual like fear of being murdered by this person, well, what is the one thing that can kind of equalize the physical power between them?
Yeah.
Right? It's a
I
gun.
actually I actually read an article recently of something that happened basically exactly like that, where it was
Oh,
this woman trying to buy a firearm. I think it was in New York, and she was like her I don't remember if it was her current partner or an ex, but they had killed her before the waiting period came back, before she was
uh,
legally allowed to go and pick up her handgun.
it is a damn tragedy.
Mm.
So
And
no anti-gunners. You're not saving lives. You're killing them. People need protection. Right? You don't. There are no waiting periods. If you go to the doctors and you have, you know, you have a serious, like, say you have meningitis, there are no government imposed waiting periods before you can get treated. Right? There is no other situation where you have to be just given this time where you can't get access to what you need simply because we don't like the tool in which the tool that will help you. Only gun. And it doesn't help anything. It just makes it worse. In your example, if it saves one life, they like to always say, well, what about the example you just gave? It didn't save her life,
no,
it ended it. She's dead because she can't do it. Granted, maybe she would have still been killed if she had the gun, but at least she'd have a chance. She'd
she
have
would
a
have had
fighting
a
chance to
chance
survive.
to protect herself. She could potentially be here, but we'll never
Sorry,
know.
could you repeat that sentence? You kind of cut out about midway
I was
through it.
just saying, yeah, she could have protected herself. She could still be here, but we will never know.
Yep. If it would just save one life, I would support the ending of all gun control everywhere. It would just save one life. That is deeply unfortunate, and I wish her relatives all the consolation in the world.
Yeah.
And that, folks, is why gun control is bad. Why the ATF is bad. Fuck the ATF. Them in particular, they're the worst.
All my homies hate the ATF.
Yes. I'm pretty sure there's no one watching here who's like, nah, the ATF is good. No. Well, like, fuck the ATF. Because, again, fuck the ATF.
I
The
want that one
ATF.
person that's like, the ATF isn't so bad. I've watched. At first I was gonna say I watched Breaking Bad, but no, that was yay.
Actually, no, no, no. There is one group of people I think who would be very supportive of the ATF. By any chance, are you familiar with the website Reddit?
Yes, I am.
Are you familiar with the subreddit called Dog Free?
I can't say that.
So yeah, I would figure the subreddit Dog Free would be big fans of the ATF.
Hmm.
And for those who don't know, it's a subreddit dedicated towards hating dogs, which apparently that's a thing. And apparently these people, if you can really call them people, have
They're
congregate around their
dedicated
hatred
to
of dogs.
hating dogs.
Yes, it exists.
What?
I know. Like I can
How?
get hate.
Like,
Like yeah,
I'm pretty sure not even cultures throughout the world that have historically like hunted dogs hate dogs like
exactly.
that.
Right. It was. They at least treated them like any other animal that like needed to be eaten. They didn't hate. This is just hatred directed towards dogs. It's the most absurd subreddit I've ever seen, and there are a lot of absurd subreddits out there. But that, really, you
Oh
hate
my god.
dogs? I can even get not liking dogs, but
Yeah,
hating
like
them?
The only thing I could think of is like it's just a congregation of a bunch of people who have like a phobia of dogs.
Yeah, and it's not even that. It's not people afraid. I can get being afraid of dogs. Some people had bad experiences with dogs, and now they're scared of them. But no, it's the visceral hatred of dogs. It's
To the point of, let me guess, like
like
wanting them to
celebrating when dogs
exterminate.
die, right? It's
What?
yeah, it is. Which again, actually, I take that back. It's probably just all feds, and by feds I mean ATF agents. It's just their secret little place to congregate.
That's their old circle jerk.
Exactly. No, Stoner, they aren't trolls. They're feds.
ATF, and don't forget the local law enforcement too. They're probably
Yep,
in there with
probably.
that one. Oh my gosh, it's been a couple months now, but where it was like a sheriff and like a canine sheriff unit went to assist with like a manhunt. Uh, like with local PD, and they were talking about, they were like, even the ATF was like, rest in peace to this dog, where there was
Mhm.
like, it was shot in the line of duty. What they didn't mention, and what's in the reports, is that this sheriff's dog was shot by local PD, not
Of
by
course.
the suspect that they were that was fleeing and they were running after and trying to track down. The dog was shot by local PD.
Yeah. Also, on that, I just saw today someone posted. And I'm gonna try to find this on Twitter. So forgive me if I'm a bit more quiet than usual for the time. Where there was a video posted. And this is one of those small dogs. There was a cop was a woman called the cops for help for something, and the cops showed up, and this small little, like, it wasn't a chihuahua, but it was like a chihuahua sized dog starts barking at them. The cop immediately pulls out the gun, shoots at the dog, misses the dog, and hits the woman in the leg because a tiny dog is barking.
It's like my headphones came unplugged, but oh my
Oh,
gosh.
yeah,
Oh,
and let me just see if I can pull up this video.
that's about
It's
as like
absurd.
the one video that was gaining a lot of attention. It was of an officer shooting a golden retriever that was like playfully lightly running towards him, and he just like mag dumps this dog.
Yeah. All right, I found it. It's a video posted by Bad Futa. If anyone knows her, check out her art. She's an awesome artist. But yeah, it was a Pomeranian. A
A Pomeranian?
Pomeranian. Yeah, Pomeranian. It was barking at these cops, and
Oh my
they.
gosh. They're like, unlike even Chihuahuas, the
Yeah,
Pomeranians are basically all bark, no bite. They
yeah,
like they will be they will yip something fierce at you, but like that's really it. Like they're oh my gosh.
yeah, and all right, so I'm just gonna go ahead and play this video real quick. It's about its own. It's less than a minute, and after that, let's see what you think.
I expected them to come for my protection, and instead I was the victim.
Kill him, get your dog! Get back! Get back!
He missed, he didn't hit the dog, and instead shot my client.
I can't.
I didn't shoot her.
Should this deputy still be a deputy at this point?
Have you seen the video?
I'm scared of y'all! Don't be scared of me.
Just terrifying.
I really couldn't hear that, but there was subtitles and on
Yeah,
her. I'm scared of you. Understandably, like
yeah,
they came in. Your dog started yip yip yip, and officer draw shoot you in the leg. Of course, I would be fucking terrified.
yeah. Rightfully so, and pissed. And you call
You
someone to help you
Yeah, you
because
call
you are in
someone
need of
that
help.
you believe is supposed to be like a force that's there to help,
Yeah,
that
a
is there
force for
to,
good.
as their own cars say, protect
Yes.
and serve.
And
But
then not only do they try to kill your dog, they miss and wound you.
in a leg shot, like lots of media and people think, oh,
Just shoot him in the leg.
I need to stop this person, or like if officers really wanted to stop him, they should have just shot him in the. No, there
Oh, yeah.
are major,
The femoral artery.
there are, yeah,
Oh,
arteries,
if you
veins.
get shot in the femoral artery, you're dead in like 30 seconds
Yeah,
if you don't stop
like
it.
not even a minute.
Yeah,
It
like I'd rather be shot in the chest probably than be shot somewhere near my femoral artery. I'd probably have more chance of surviving than that. I'd rather just not be shot.
Yeah, I'd prefer not to
If
be
way
shot.
between just chest in general, not specifically heart, and femoral artery, yeah,
It,
hit me
it
in the chest.
it's like the whole joke of like, oh, which would you rather be shot with, a 22 cal, a 9 mil, or a 45? And the person like, I'd rather just not be shot.
Yeah. And for those of you here listening, always aim for center mass, like chest area. Just center mass. Stop
Center
the
mass,
threat.
it's the best, like it's the biggest target, and a lot of vitals are there, so it's easy to. It's just better to prevent any further attacks towards you.
Yeah. It's you're not trying specifically to kill anyone, but it's the best way to stop the threat.
It's the best to prevent someone from continuing to attack you.
Yes. And for those of you who think, have you? For those of you who say shoot them in the arm or the leg, have you ever tried shooting a moving target? Have you ever tried shooting a moving target in the arm?
Hell, have you like the size of a normal person's arm? Have you ever tried from, let's just say, 10 yards, shooting a target that small, even when it's not moving?
Yeah.
Like with a handgun. Like
Mhm.
look, like get like a Glock, get a target like that, and try shooting like one of those like body size targets. Aim just for the arms.
Yeah.
Yeah,
See how that works out. Now, imagine that target is trying to murder you.
you're like
Are
coming
you gonna?
at you actively.
Yes. Now, are you going to? Are you gonna shoot for the arms? No. You're gonna shoot for the chest. Or
That's
maybe
why you
you're
do
gonna shoot for the head, but which you also shouldn't do, because again, center mass.
I was gonna say that's why you do a Mozambique drill.
Yep.
For people not aware, that is the 2 to the chest, 1 to the head.
I thought a Mozambique drill was two to the chest and one to like the pelvis area.
To the I thought it was to the I could be
I
wrong.
think we actually
Let
had.
me
I think the very first or second episode of the show, we were discussing. I think it was before you were there. I was actually discussing this with Erica, and she mentioned Mozambique drill, and I
No,
asked, like, "What is
I'm
that?"
looking it up right now. The Mozambique drill, known as the failure drill, failure to stop drill, or informally as 2 to the body, 1 to the head, is
Oh,
a close quarters shooting technique that requires the shooter to fire twice to the torso of the target and follow up with one more difficult shot to the head. If properly placed, should kill or otherwise stop the target.
well, then I seem to have been fact checked in real time. Probably was remembering a different, similarly named drill.
There is a drill where it's like 2 to the chest and 1 to the groin, but
Yeah,
I forget what that one's called.
called adding insult to injury. Um, but yeah, the more
Let me
you know, I
actually
guess.
look that one up.
All
2
right.
to the chest, 1 to the groin drill.
There is a dirty joke in there somewhere, but I am a bit too pure to make it.
Let's see. Let's see. No, 1 to the groin. I'm looking at, for example, a forum right now, the firing line. It's just saying, well, talking as a person saying that their instructor had them shooting that when they qualified for their CCW, but I'm not seeing like a name for the drill.
And just for the record, no, Stoner, not specifically ignoring you, just paying attention to other things,
Mhm.
as I
Sorry
am
about that.
both producing and hosting today. My attention, unfortunately, has been run out. Oh, alright. If you're just looking, fair
Yeah.
enough.
You were like, dead people can't sue. That is correct, but then at the same time, if it's if the like, officers or law enforcement say, "Oh, you overexerted, like you were basically went past the point of self-defense and into you are now the attacker," it
Yeah,
it's not a case. It wouldn't be a case of them suing you, but more of like federal
prosecuting you.
charges. Yeah, of being
Yeah.
prosecuted.
Let's just say you don't want to be put in a situation in New York where you're in New York City and a deranged homeless psycho accosts you and you accidentally kill them. Because then you'll be prosecuted.
Yeah.
Cough, Daniel Perry, cough.
But then again, at the same time, what are you doing finding yourself in New York?
Exactly. Why would you go there in the first place? Then
Like
it's a
I could
hive of scum and villainy.
I could see maybe passing through it, but like like because I will say they do have decent like museums and hey, I mean, who doesn't love New York style pizza? But
Of course.
other than that, like why?
No reason at all. It is a decrepit hellhole where actually I have a friend who was recently like used to live in New York City before moving upstate recently, and it's like the rent is like $3,000 for a studio in the city, and
Yeah.
not even in Manhattan, in like one of the cheaper parts of New
Oh
York,
God, yeah.
like three
Thank
thousand
God.
for a studio.
Thank God I didn't move. So back in like 2015, I was potentially like gonna move up to Yonkers,
Mhm.
which
Oh,
if
funnily enough,
people
that's actually where my friend was originally from, Yonkers.
oh,
So shout out,
so
shout out to
it's
my
one
friend
of
Stella.
nice. So that's one of those things where I don't think it's like officially like a borough of New York, but it's like it's basically like it borders the city.
Oh,
It's like right there. It's like just north of Harlem.
all right. Oh, so it's not that far.
No, not at all. Like they get the New York Metro and everything.
Oh,
Like
really?
they get the trains, you get the taxis, basically everything that you get in just main New York, you're gonna get there. I think literally the only difference is it's not one of those big boroughs that you hear about, like. Uh, but I could be absolutely wrong, kind of like how a lot of places in there you don't hear as oh one of the big old boroughs, but are obviously New York, like fucking Hell's Kitchen. That's dead set in the middle. It's
Yeah.
part. It was isn't it like in Manhattan, and but it's called the Hell's Kitchen.
Yep. So yeah, my friend from Yonkers, she told me a story recently where she was in New York City. This at the time, this is about a decade ago. She was like 12 or 13 at the time, and someone pulled a knife on her, tried to mug her. So she pulled out a knife of her own because, of course, it's New York, so she also has a knife.
Yeah.
And then the guy ran off. But imagine trying to mug a 12-year-old girl.
Oh my
What?
gosh.
I can understand trying to mug like an adult, but like I of course don't support it, but I can understand.
Yeah, it's
I
like
can't really
that
understand trying to mug.
already is kind of scummy behavior,
Yeah,
but then
like,
to mug a child,
yeah.
really?
Do you think the child is gonna have a lot of money? Like children don't normally carry money on them. 12 year, like what? Maybe you'll get $1 and free
I don't
fuck
know.
from her.
New York, they might have some money just from the fact of like say like take the bus or like that or like buy something at like a bodega for school or maybe like I don't know they want their like their Metro card. I don't know.
Yeah,
But even then, like
hive of
half the
scum
people
and
I
villainy.
see, half the people I see in videos just like leap over the like the thing like right before the trains anyway, so
Yep. And that is also possible. Stoner may have just been trying to kidnap her.
that is true too.
A lot of that goes on unseen. Probably happens a lot in cities. It doesn't just happen on private islands owned by billionaires.
Doesn't just happen down in the Caribbean. S- Weirdly enough, if you look up SpongeBob's address, like the one that shows up on his boating license, it
Mhm.
will take on Google Earth. One of the locations is Little St. James Island. I don't know why, but
That is very suspicious. Which is
yeah, literally.
unfortunate because SpongeBob was a great show. But
Yeah, it was like I saw it was like a YouTube short or like basically it was either that or someone had re-uploaded a TikTok where it was going over that. I'm like, what? No way.
mm,
I'm referencing another TikToker, but literally I looked it up on Google Map or Google Earth myself. It it comes up with like three locations because you have to put in like the whole address, like the one that would show up on his boating license, and one of the three places that it pings is there.
mm, very. Um, I will hope that it was just a coincidence and they just picked some random island in the Caribbean, but I can't be too sure.
I don't know because there is like one other place is another island in the Caribbean, but it's more like a bikini bottom like bar and grill,
Oh,
and then there is another place.
hmm. Well, I guess I shouldn't be too surprised. You know these Hollywood types that's what they do.
Yeah.
Not Jeffrey, Harvey Weinstein.
Jeffrey Weinstein.
Very similar last name. But yes, it is. It's
That's
pretty standard practice in that
that's true.
hellhole.
In chat where it's like, remember Nickelodeon had Dan Schneider. Yep. And the guy that made Ren and Stimpy. Oh my gosh,
Wait,
yeah.
really, the guy who made Ren and Stimpy as well? That's that's discerning. That was such a great show. What did he do?
I'm not sure, but Dan Schneider definitely. Oh my gosh, the amounts of like, oh my god,
Is
I
he a
forget
kitty
her.
diddler too?
Dan Schneider. No, he's the Dan Schneider, the foot guy, the
Oh,
one that like had all those like older I say older, but like the Nickelodeon shows, like oh my gosh, like iCarly, Sam and Cat. You had shows like Drake and Josh, things like that, where they would have like scenes with like the actresses with like doing things with their feet, like showing
hmm.
off their feet, and to the point because these were child actors and actresses,
Hmm.
and it was like
So
very uncomfortable.
is he like the pedo Quentin Tarantino?
Probably, yeah, because it was all the only ones that you were seeing these things with were like the, the younger actors. I mean, they were more like teenagers, but that doesn't make it okay.
Of course
That's
not.
still that's still like weird and creepy that like
Yeah,
you're like, hey, this like I'm a director, I want this child's feet, like, oh, I want them to be like, oh, it's like stepping on grapes or something like that, like w- why? And it's like
huh.
I forget the actress's name. Let me quickly look it up. She played Sam from iCarly, and then in Sam and Cat. She ended up uh early actress. Jeanette McCurdy. She actually ended up going on. She was not in the iCarly uh she was not in the like. Well, they recently redid like a newer iCarly. They brought back like a Miranda Cosgrove, a lot of the actors, but Jeanette McCarty did not come back due to uh, basically just the bad toxic and like trauma memories that came from working with Nickelodeon and everybody that was there. She actually even recently had a book. I have not had the chance to read it yet, but titled "I'm Glad My Mom Died," where it's going over the fact that she was one of those like that you would hear about of like child actors where it's like their parents were basically like her mom was basically like, you need to get into this, I don't care what kind of situations you were put in, because I'm the one that's reaping the money from this. Like she
Yeah.
was supposed to, like, the way that apparently child acting works is that a lot of the, like, the majority of the money is kind of
Goes to the
put
parents.
into, yeah, it goes into like an account that is set aside for them until they're 18.
Hmm.
She saw none of it.
Hmm. That is just appalling.
Yeah, they really did do her dirty.
Yeah. It is. Hollywood is one of those places that really needs to be nuked. It is. I
It's
said that New York is the hive of scum and villainy. Well, New York is a den of purity and serenity compared to what Hollywood is.
Yeah. And it's kind of like, for example, the other actress in Sam and Cat, Ariana Grande. She was in Sam and Cat as well as
Are
Victorious.
was
Uh,
Ariana Grande an actress before she became a singer?
yeah,
Or oh
she was started out on Nickelodeon. She
oh.
did do singing on Nickelodeon, but that's how she got her start. And her hair, like the reason that she wears all these wigs, right, is
Mhm.
because her character had this like clearly red hair, like this like scarlet like hair.
Mhm.
They had her dye her hair every single week to the point that
Mhm.
her like she had said, I think it was in an interview where, yeah, it was her hair is just fried. Her
Mhm.
natural hair is just like destroyed even years
Even like
after.
at the root. Like I thought if you
Yeah.
just dye the hair, shouldn't it be
No,
fine
it
once
as
you?
in, like, it has destroyed, like, the roots and things like that. It
Oh.
is her natural hair is very brittle, and it's just it's not very healthy to the point that, like, because they for her character with it, like, oh, you like, their character is this quirky little, like, they have this, like, really red hair, all these things, it's destroyed her hair.
What the fuck? I, I do not have the words to express my contempt for that place.
Mm.
Is
Yep.
all right. Now then, to as we kind of glossed over, we kind of took a bit of a detour from the topics of today. So I would like to
Yeah, a
bring it
bit.
bring it back
Let's
a
try to
bit
get
and
back.
segue into my next topic I had planned for today, providing it works. And let us take a look. That is the war in Ukraine, folks. Ukraine has been running a counteroffensive over the last 6 or 7 weeks,
Mhm.
supposedly, back with full backing of the mainstream media and all the let's just say full backing of the globalist American empire. It hasn't been going so well.
Excuse me.
Apparently, upwards of 10% of Ukraine's entire army has been destroyed, trying to gain. If you see the picture, the areas in blue are what they gained for 10% of their entire army and 30% of the entirety of their Western donated equipment. Also
Oh
gone.
my gosh.
They dehumanized, and them again being the globalist American empire, dehumanized Russia and convinced themselves that Russia is a mindless, apathetic horde. And then they fucked around and they found out. And well,
Yeah.
being the type of person
Oh
I
my gosh.
am, since they were in fact called a mindless horde, I quote tweeted this because I had to. And normally we'll address the tweet first and then get to the quote tweet later, but this time I'm gonna show you what I quote tweeted. Most of you probably won't get this, but if you do, you're a real one. I said, the Virgin Alliance versus the Chad Horde. Fuck the Alliance.
Hey, fuck you. I like playing as my gnomes.
Gnomes. Oh, I'm surprised you got it, and kudos to you for getting my joke. Forward all the way. Orcs
No,
are undead.
I'll admit that's literally the only alliance race that I play. It's a gnome. I tell that to people, and I'm like, I don't actually. I'm not like a for the alliance like that. But I just like my gnomes, and most people are like, okay, well you're kind of like you're okay. Like you're kind of like one of those exceptions. It's like you're fine. We'll put up with you.
I have a video I need to send to you after, especially because you said you like to play gnomes. But I'll send that
But
to you after
yeah,
the show.
literally back in like 2010, like the amount of excuse me, because I didn't really have money to actually pay for a World of Warcraft account. The amount of like like throwaway email accounts that I made just to get like another 7-day free trial just so I
Nice.
could play. Like the amount of hour because of the fact that it's you could play 24 like you could play for like 24 hours a day for those 7 days. So the
Yeah.
amount of hours that I put in on each account just like grinding. And I was one of those idiots that I would just loved exploring. So I would be like level 15, 20, no, not even that. I would be like level like 12 to 15, and I'd be in areas where it's like you have to be level 40 plus in order to even like make it through here. And I'm just like quickly running up to like running past enemies that like it stopped showing me the levels. Like it would just be
Yes.
like, hey, like hoping that like if anyone attacked me, like if any of like the little NPCs attacked me, that like another player was nearby and like just like friendly enough to basically just save my ass, and like so I could get a little bit of XP from that.
So, knowing now that you are a bit of a WoW nerd as well, at some point, assuming Erica is fine with it, I'm gonna have to grab you and Heron from Twitter if you follow her,
I think I
and
do. Yeah.
we're gonna
The
have a big WoW discussion on over here.
oh my god, it's kind of funny because I won't say what company it was, but back when I worked at an internet service provider company,
Mhm.
uh excuse me, I'm so sorry, my training class, there was a bunch of other nerds, and we ended up not actually going through that, unfortunately, but we were literally playing, like we had set up a Discord server and we're planning on like going on like raids, like things like
Nice.
that, like literally like coworkers and things like that. We were all like, yeah, we like I play WoW too. I play WoW. Me, oh my gosh, need to restart up my subscription and make a new character. All this, and we could all just go on raids together.
Hmm, that would have been fun.
Yeah.
Also, Z asked a question, asking if she can say something. Yes, you can. No idea what you want to say, but
Excuse me.
I'm not sure if you're not in the chat. You can either join in the chat or you can just say it, and now I can read it out for you. Um, so yeah, but other than that, the proverbial microphone is yours. And I see Stoner is typing, but I have yet to hear from Z. Z, for those of you who don't know, is our quality assurance specialist on the podcast. She watches it and checks to make sure I haven't fucked up too much. Something alerts me when I have.
I
Um,
ain't gonna say how long. I just want to say I can't say much about the constantly using burner account. I
mhm.
legit used to have a little go to a little place that will make a fake identity for you. like credit card numbers, ID, everything, and I'd be like, I'm running out of my subscription. Make a new identity so I could go ahead and have a free one.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Oh, one
I
second.
mean, it was legit. Fake email, fake name, fake phone number, fake credit card.
Is this a thing you had to pay for, or was this just free?
No, it just lasted for 5 minutes, and it was like the identity was gone, and I had to make a new one. So it's like it was perfect for burner account.
Sorry about that. I had to pop away for a second. One of the puppies got into an empty old trash and got into an empty thing of beef jerky. Was
Huh.
tearing the bag apart.
As dogs tend to do.
Yep. I mean, to be fair, it's beef. It's dried
Yeah.
meats, and they're a dog. Like
Yeah.
that's like
They're gonna tear the shit out of that.
yeah.
What type of dog is it?
She is actually oh my gosh, I'm trying to remember. It is a it is blanking from my head.
I guess while you
Oh,
try to remember that,
yeah.
Stoner also asked if he could say something, so yes you can. Hopefully your connection is secure enough. Or not secure, but good enough where we can actually hear you. But the floor is yours, so to speak.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you good.
All right. You might want to read my comments that I made about the Russians in Ukraine. And Miss Luna, are you still there?
Yes, I am.
You remember that picture that you showed us of you posing with the banjo?
Yes, I do.
Please play Dixie for us one day.
I can't actually play the banjo. That I will admit I can't play the banjo. That was my roommates. I was just like, hey, this just totally fits the aesthetic. But
Just a photo op.
yeah, I cannot play.
Understandable. I can't play the banjo either.
I mean, I could record my roommate playing it, and then I could just like put the audio over me, just like doing basically just like going, like practically like air playing it, but like holding it. It would look janky as all hell. Like you'd be seeing like me basically just like plucking at nothingness. It would like my hands just like randomly moving, but you'd be hearing it.
I'm going to show a picture of what it would be like you doing that while playing Dixie. Just give me a moment.
It would sound it would look more like one of those like animatronic shows that you'd see at like Chuck E. Cheese, where it's like it's supposed to look like them playing the instrument. Like you hear music, but it's clearly not coming from like whatever the thing that like this animatronic is holding.
Damn it, I'm trying to mute myself so I can go take care of this.
And to respond to you, Z, as well, at someday that may happen. Z was wanting to at some point play WoW with us, so perhaps someday we shall.
Nice.
But I ain't playing no fucking alliance.
Oh good, I'll make a horde.
And for those of you who had no idea what the fuck we were talking about for the past several minutes, it seems me and Luna share a common interest in the video game World of Warcraft. And I assume, which is actually surprising, which I guess from a statistical standpoint, I find it fairly surprising, but pretty damn
Well,
cool.
I got into it kind of late. Well, late as far as like the game is concerned.
Well, late,
but
like, what expansion did you get into it in?
Wrath of the Lich King.
That's by now. That's like That's
True,
almost like ancient.
that's literally like they've already passed it in WoW Classic again.
Yeah,
Like it's already been like re-released. So I
yeah.
mean that's technically like oh my God, I am old when I say I think of it wasn't very old World of Warcraft, and I say Wrath of the Lich King. Like it's
Yes.
like what
It's like,
are you
what?
talking about?
Yeah, that was just a few years ago, right?
Yeah,
Right?
it's like yeah, Wrath of the Lich King. Yeah, didn't Mists of Pandaria just come out?
Yeah. And for those who aren't aware, World of Warcraft first came out in 2004. It's
Oh my
it's
God.
20 years old next year,
Oh
and
my
they're
God.
still going.
Yeah, I played World of Warcraft, and then later I played a lot of League of Legends.
Oh
Obviously not
yes.
quite the same type of game, but in the
Mhm.
fact of if you think about it, League of Legends came out in 2009. I
Yep.
started playing it about
Uh,
yeah,
Again,
that
it's like, hey, it just came out.
yeah, I know.
It
It's
just
like
came out
what?
not that long ago. Oh yes,
No, I remember
2009.
I remember it's been a few years, but God, watching the Worlds. I mean, I think I watched the
But
most recent Worlds, but I really kind of fell off because my
yeah.
favorite team was always SK Telecom, although
Mhm.
most recently renamed to just T1 because it was originally SK Telecom T1 and then they had SK Telecom T2, but then they did away with T2 and it was just
Right.
T1. But I'm still a believer that Faker is the best League player, like
Who
period.
did you main in LoL?
I was always like a tank support type player. Like
Oh,
I didn't play too much of Braum, but he was good. I would
right.
usually play like Nautilus
Oh
or
yes.
oh my gosh, Nautilus. Why do I forget the name? The Minotaur. Alistar. I
Oh
would usually
yes.
play either
Alistar is great.
Alistar or Nautilus, mainly due to the fact that especially after I managed to get that the QW, I think it is, the QW combo down, where where you launch yourself at the enemy. Normally, off of the
Yeah.
Q, it would launch them forward, but if you get a timely W in, it knocks them up into the air. You can
Yes.
get great crowd control off that. Similar with
Yeah.
Nautilus, one of the best things I would love doing was so I would catch like the enemy ADC or like the enemy jungle like under my tower. Like I'm
Mhm.
alone. I don't have my ADC with me. I just like so with Nautilus, it has something where you latch onto them and you go towards them, and then your first auto attack roots them in place, and you have another move that slows them, but then also you have your ult, which kind of goes after them, knocks them up into the air. So I would
Mhm.
use my ult, it would go after them. I would latch onto them, which locks them into place. I would go towards them. They would get knocked into the air. I would hit them, rooting them in place, and then I would also slow them. All the while they are being hit by the tower, and they're trying to attack me. And I would usually go like a big health like a big health build. So I had maybe like 4k health. I'm like just
Right.
not dying. I am pulling up shields, and I literally just like they die to the tower before they can even damage me, and I'm just like like they're in chat just like what is even happening, because I literally just outlive them.
Yeah, I used to, for more tankier when I was more in a tank role, I used to play mostly what's his name, Doctor Mundo.
Ooh,
Um,
Mundo is a good
well,
one for that.
he's not a very good support tank, but like if you go like a pure HP build Mundo, there would be times when like I was just kind of off doing my own thing, and there'd be a team fight, and my team would lose, and like maybe the other team would lose like one person, but then I'd show up and I would win the team fight solo just because you I had so much health
You
regen
just
they couldn't
could
hurt me.
outlive
Yeah,
everyone.
you just go and win a team fight by yourself just because you have so much HP and so much HP regen. Other than that though, I was also mostly an Urgot main. Urgot was before they nerfed the hell out of him. He really was. He was the
Yeah.
goat. And you know his
Shout out
he-
to them. I mean, it's not technically, but them finally making that Star Guardian Urgot skin.
yeah, they used to.
It's
So
Luna.
for those of you who don't know, just a brief description of why Urgot before he was nerfed was the goat. So there are 4 abilities. Right?
1
His
second.
I believe it's his E ability fires a area of effect acid attack, and anyone in this area of effect gets. It's a damage over time thing, so it takes some damage over time. But then his Q ability was kind of like a heat-seeking missile for anyone who had that acid on them. So no matter how far away they go, while the acid effect is on them, you can repeatedly shoot your Q at them, and the Q also had really good. The Q had damage. What is it? It's that ability where any effect you have, like any that your auto attack would do, also apply to your Q. So you can just melt people with this shit if you have a strong attack. If you have a lot of attack power, you can just melt people with it. And then on top of that, his ult, which is his R, before they ruined it, was a position swapper. So you and a target of your choice swap positions,
Don't
and
forget
then you get a
his
shield. So for team,
terrifying
yeah.
ult. Like
So for
terrifying to be
team
on the
fights,
receiving
yeah,
side of.
yeah, you can just their ADC is just well protected. Nope, now it's gone, and my tanky Urgot build is in its position. I'll put my W shield on and just walk away, and their carry will be dead. Right? It was so
Oh
useful.
oh my gosh, what is this in chat? I have cute feet. Now we just wait for the serb to arrive.
Oh yeah, Molly has not shown up, unfortunately. Perhaps she fell asleep again, which is possible. Well, other than that, yeah, Urgot was the goat. I also played a pretty mean Tarek. Tarek was a good support tank.
I had tried doing ADC. Like for example, I was I think mastery
Oh
5
yes.
or 6 on yeah, mastery 6 I think on Jinx. It was
Oh,
literally I needed one more S game and I
yeah.
never came.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of, how could I forget? I also played a shitload of Jax. Fun fact, for one of my projects in the high school class, I actually built his lamppost. I have it at my parents' house. Just a scale model replica of Jax's lamppost in my parents' place now. I really should go get that and bring it here.
That's actually really cool.
Yeah.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Speaking of did you see the Netflix like Arcane?
No. What is that?
It's a League of Legends show on
Oh.
Netflix and it is actually amazing. It has brought players like people into uh League as well as the fact of like it's actually been regarded as like one of the best recent animations just in
Oh.
general. Like it
So
is
so it's like a
amazing.
show that takes place in like the world of League of Legends.
It's a little different, but it's very following of basically kind of Jinx and Vi as well as several other characters like
Hmm.
Jace, Victor, Heimerdinger, uh there's Caitlyn, a lot of character because it takes place in uh Piltover and the Undercity, and not yet named Zon.
Ah, I should probably check that out. Then would be
It
interesting.
is actually unironically to you, and if people have Netflix, I would highly recommend that they watch it.
Otherwise, go visit your nearest pirate-friendly site. Put on your
Arr!
trusty pirate hat and find it that way. And But one thing though, I am waiting for, and sadly, I don't think I'll ever get to see. But there needs to be an Arthas miniseries.
An Arthas miniseries?
Yes, Arthas from Arthas Menethil from WoW, like a miniseries about him and his story. That would be the shit, right?
Maybe, but at the same time, I feel like it might not come about, unfortunately, due to the
Yeah,
fact of, like, because of the Warcraft movie, and I
yeah,
don't think it did as good as they were hoping that it would.
it
I
didn't,
mean,
but
from what I hear, it's a good. I haven't actually seen it myself, but what I hear, it's kind of decent, but
yeah,
it did not do what they were hoping it would.
yeah. But I mean, but they chose to focus on the wrong thing. Right? They chose to focus on like the original story of like the original Warcraft story. What they should have focused
Yeah,
on was Arthas's journey in becoming the Lich King, and then subsequent fall of the Lich King. That shit would that
that
shit would sell.
that would have been good. I mean,
And for the
hell,
record, Arthas did nothing wrong.
hell, even throw in some like throw in a reference for like the players that played during that. Have a Mr. T grenade. Remember
Yes,
those?
yes. Night Elf Mohawk.
Yep. I remember
That
playing
was that was the shit as well. That
that.
was
It
one.
really was. Oh my gosh, that was cool.
That was
Like
what that remains one of the greatest commercials of all time.
unironically, that was like one of the reasons that like I probably got into it because I saw that. I was like, what is this? Let me like I had heard it like I'd known people that had played World of Warcraft before, so I'm like, but that really got like my okay, why not? Let me try this. And then it ended up becoming like uh my my 12, 13-year-old self's addiction.
As it did to many people around that same time.
I had played a lot of MMOs like that. I had
Yeah,
like Lord of the Rings Online back at the time. It was when Lord of the Rings Online was still in its infancy. I remember there
right.
was Pirates of the Caribbean Online,
Oh yeah, I
uh,
remember that.
all these things like that.
I only had ever besides WoW, I'd only ever played a one MMO. Besides that, there was I believe it was a Korean MMO called Silk Road Online.
Silk Road, I'm vaguely familiar. I
Yeah,
didn't play it,
in like the
but
mid 2000s when I was like uh,
back
early to
then
mid high school, I played the hell out of that.
I was playing like RuneScape and
Oh yes,
Adventure Quest Online.
oh, yeah. I remember RuneScape. RuneScape is also still going, surprisingly.
It is, and it's kind of like with World of Warcraft, they have like a RuneScape classic type thing, as well as
Oh,
like they're just regular RuneScape.
really? Yeah,
It's honestly crazy the fact of like just how big it's become in the sense of like just how long it's lasted, how much of a
yeah.
cultural effect it has. I mean, everyone's known the joke, has heard the joke of like uh like buying GF 10,000 gold.
Yeah. I also played a bit of that, like younger. I think in late elementary school. I remember that was kind of like the big thing, popular amongst all the kids in my grade. Was RuneScape.
Yeah. I played that mainly because the fact that it was free to play. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah.
Whereas WoW, it's like $20 a month. I think it's probably gone up since then. But it used to be $20 a
Actually,
month.
I'm not 100% sure. Let me look. I have BattleNet on my computer
Oh, yeah.
because that's how
Curious.
I play Call of Duty. I've been playing more like DMZ and then Tarkov lately, but let
But
me
it is interesting to note that there have been some people who have been paying Blizzard $20 every month since 2004 and are still paying them $20 per month right now.
yeah. Hell, someone met their wife and married, and but
Yeah.
actually, in order to segue back into our topic, I'm sure I'll find the get the 6 month. Let me see how much that is. So 6 month is actually $12.99 a month.
Perfect.
That's
Not
actually
bad.
not bad. But to segue back into our topic, because we've been getting a little offhand, they have this. I'm seeing here. Come on, go back to my homepage, please. Where it was like it's like a pet pack
Yeah.
of
Or
donate
the
for.
Ukraine one, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
you knew exactly how I was going with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was to go back into our topic of Ukraine.
I actually had a tweet about that. Let me see if I can pull that up. First I just have to do this, so no one can see my trying to search
Sorry to
for
the
it.
viewers, we've kind of gotten off topic a couple times now.
Yeah, let me just try to find it. Twitter advanced search is very, very useful.
But I did a similar thing because with me saying how I had been playing Call of Duty, I know everyone in the community was going like, oh, why did they add the pride flags and not country flags? I kind of like they had country or pride flags, but it confused me as well why they didn't have country flags. Call of Duty always had country flags. They recently added.
Excuse me, may I say something
Yeah,
real quick, please, after Miss Luna gets done?
sure.
All right, we better get back on topic. Otherwise, the Marine is going to make us do the USMC Crucible twice.
Ooh boy, no.
I'm not sure what that means, but I will look it up. But first, just the obligatory, since we brought up that pet pack.
But yeah, I was saying,
Still
with
not as bad as
Call of
Shadowland.
Duty, the fact that when they added these country flags, they added a Ukraine flag, but incidentally, not a Russian flag.
Yep. Very
But with
suspicious.
you saying with the Ukraine with the blizzard,
Yeah. And I stand by what I said here. Blizzard trying to get their ESG score raised, I see. Still not as bad as Shadowland. And for if you are not up on the more recent WoW expansions, there was one called Shadowland. Very unpopular expansion.
I'm not familiar, but I wouldn't be surprised with
Oh,
recent blizzard.
yeah. Very unfortunate the direction the company has gone in since Activision bought it.
Mm. But though I actually hear that Activision has actually been bought by Microsoft,
Yeah.
so I don't
I'm
know what's
not
gonna happen
sure
there.
whether that's good or bad.
Well,
Because
they brought back
Activision.
old Call of Duty lobbies
Oh,
back on, like
oh,
old, like original Black Ops, like original
oh,
Modern Warfare 2, Black Ops 2, games like that.
hmm, that's good.
Like, yeah, they have player bases now, but I'm trying to think. As far as also keeping with our actual topic, with the fact that you were saying how like Ukraine was on a counteroffensive and they had lost about what was that 10% of their forces.
Yeah.
I really so on Facebook there is a page that I am subscribed to that had been like coming out with because I really don't have like I haven't found the Telegram channels for a lot of these places because
Mhm.
that is where a majority of these videos are coming from. People are posting them to Telegram and
Yeah.
then from there. But this one Facebook page that I follow reposts these Telegram videos. I really haven't been seeing a whole lot lately as far as because they usually post like combat footage and just things that are going on. Like that was where I noted because it wasn't until the news like several like days after that I had saw heard something about I'm sure people here I don't know if everyone has but some people would have seen footage of I think it was Ukrainian special forces clearing a Russian like basically they were going through the trenches like clearing Russian trenches and a dude in just like practically like civilian gear. Like it looks like he's wearing like like a sweatsuit, and this basically going through clearing. And it even made the news because of course they're going to be like, yes, this is our special forces doing this. So I mean, of course they're going to use it as like a kind of like a propaganda piece of look how we're doing.
Mhm.
But I haven't seen like I've seen maybe one video in the past month that has came out recently, and like there really hasn't been a whole lot, but I really haven't
Yeah.
been seeing like a lot of the pages is that I followed while some of them do post on like footage from both sides, the majority seem to have more of a Ukrainian preference.
Mhm. They've been awfully quiet that month.
Yeah, I haven't been seeing a whole lot.
Yeah, because they have not. I will be charitable and say they have not been doing well. Like people often don't understand the situation here and think that like Ukraine has been winning the war, and Ukraine did well in the beginning of the war when Russia invaded with like only 90,000 troops, very sparsely, and was like not really in war mode.
Oh
And
no.
that's when Ukraine had its most, and Ukraine also had a buttload of Western um gear, and that's when they did very well. After Russia got serious about the war, they have not been doing so. And like, I'm not sure if you heard, but they actually recently began running out of 155 millimeter artillery shells, and to the point where the U.S. exhausted its supply giving it to Ukraine, and now can't give them more. So they had to start giving them depleted uranium round. Or was it? It wasn't depleted uranium. Sorry, I was I was incorrect. They started giving them cluster bombs, cluster 155 millimeter
our resident
rounds.
Jarhead is in the chat.
Huh. Oh yes, sure. I would be happy to be informed what the Crucible is, and no, I don't mean the movie that came out in the 1970s. Um, but yes, let me just. There we go. Yes, Erica had popped up and inquired if she was to inform us what the U.S. military's Crucible is. As I have no idea what that is, I will leave that up to her if she wishes to do so. And yes, and back to the previous topic though. Yes, so the U.S. has exhausted.
It's okay, Stoner.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay, Stoner. My family is a bunch of Navy men. You could say I got that semen in me.
Very nice. But yes, so the U.S. has kind of exhausted its own supply of 155 millimeter artillery rounds, and has therefore had to then send them. They have a large supply of 155 millimeter cluster munitions that they've had to now send over to Ukraine. Ironically, after all the hand waving about how awful it is that Russia is using cluster munitions in Ukraine, now we're sending the Ukrainians cluster munitions too. And if no one knows why cluster munitions are considered bad, it's actually because they have cluster munitions have a failure rate, and that failure rate is basically the amount of small bombs in the round that don't actually detonate when they're supposed to. And if the failure rate is above 2%, which almost all of them are, it is considered illegal in most countries to use them. And why is that? Because these cluster munitions, it's not the failure rate means they'll never explode, it just means they won't explode when they're intended to. And they have a habit of blowing up children, because they may explode years after the war has ended, and there's some children playing in a field or anywhere really where they've been deployed, and the child interacts with it, and it just goes off and either kills the child or blows off a limb or two.
And then, of course,
And
years down the line, like the longer and longer it is before this ordinance is detonated, the more and more unstable the compound is, and the more
yep,
reactive it can be. It can go from something that it takes a very specific set of circumstances to detonate to it could be bumped, and that could cause it to go off.
yep. And yeah, there's a reason why almost every country that's not the U.S. or Russia has kind of banned them because they've seen the horrors that these cluster munitions have brought upon civilians during
Real,
many
real quick,
wars.
Stoner, I at first I read your I'd rather fight Spetsnaz and PLA Special Forces hand to hand than Marines. I read that at first as a rather fight Spetsnaz with PLA, and in my head goes, yeah, I think I'd rather fight Spetsnaz with 3D printed guns than have to deal with deal with like a group of Marines as well.
Yep. At first, when I saw PLA, I was confused. I was confusing PLA for PLO, which I was like, wait, um, so the Palestinian Special Forces. What? I don't think those exist.
No, isn't
But
that the People's Liberation Army, i.e.,
yeah,
China's
yeah,
military?
yeah. And then I remembered. Oh no, it's People's Liberation Army. It's not Palestinian Liberation. Whatever the rest of the acronym is. Yeah, confused at first, but then I got it. And as we are getting a bit closer to the finale of the show here, I figured I might as well briefly bring up the next topic for discussion. And that topic is, can nuns make good cheese?
Can
And
nuns make good cheese?
this is a thing I now have experience with, as you may or may not know. The reason I was not there last week, I was on a pilgrimage to a Greek Orthodox monastery last week on Saturday
So
all
how was
day.
it? I know that like monks can make good wine and good beer. So
That is true. Trappist beer is really good. I drank a lot of Trappist beer when I was visiting Mali and Serbia. So this was actually not a monastery of monks. This was a monastery of nuns. So
okay, yeah,
for those who don't know, only men can be monks and only women can be nuns. So there's kind of a distinction there. This was visiting nuns, and
very familiar. I had the if you want to call it pleasure or displeasure of attending a Catholic middle school. So I am very familiar with all of this.
understandable. And yes, so like the monks, the nuns, well, monasteries are self-sufficient, so they need to be able to cover all expenses. Generally, how they do this is they sell things. Maybe some monks or nuns will sell jewelry, some will sell like trinkets, some will make beer and brew beer and sell that, or wine. One of the things these nuns did is they sold goat cheese. And
So like
when I was
feta,
there, sorry,
so like feta cheese,
kind of. Well, there are different types of goat
different
cheese.
types of goat cheese. Okay.
Yeah, and well, I'm not entirely sure which type of goat cheese this would fall under, but I am. It is a very pungent cheese, and the answer to the question I originally asked is yes, they can make good cheese. The cheese I bought from them was pretty good. I also bought a pocket watch there as well, which some people may be able to see on my Twitter account. And I have an interesting story. And I was saying before how like I couldn't even understand how someone would try to like mug a 12-year-old girl. Here's another thing I can't understand. Recently, so the nuns in this monastery had recently undertaken a very large construction project to build like a large facility for. Normally, they have three different small facilities where they do various things in. They're now trying to build one very large facility to kind of move everything into one facility.
Kind of like one
And
building.
they had hired out a construction company to do this. The construction company screwed them over. Cheated them, basically. And why I brought up the point of my friend being 12 and not being able to understand that, I can understand a construction company screwing over normal people or screwing over normal clients. I
Yeah,
can't
it's like
understand a construction company screwing over a group of nuns. Like,
I
really?
really can't
Nuns?
understand that either. Because, for
Like,
example, one of the things that I've done in the past was I worked like phone sales essentially at like
yeah,
a carpet cleaning company, and I remember distinctly one of the things that I specifically scheduled was for essentially like. It wasn't necessarily like a monastery, but it
yeah,
was like a Catholic church where
right,
they had essentially dorms where nuns stayed and
right.
just basically going through the process. I mean, I'm not the type that I wouldn't screw really anybody over just because the fact of like that's a scummy thing to do, like
Mhm.
to anyone, but like
Yeah,
why to someone that like I don't personally believe in their faith, okay, but why would I go like why would you go out of your way to screw someone over who is trying to essentially like a lot of them do believe that they're trying to like just be better people to help other people be better people like
yeah.
it I don't care if it's like a Catholic nun, if you're a Catholic nun, if you're like a Buddhist nun, something like that. Like, why would you do that?
It's
It,
like, they tend to be the nicest people. Like, I've never met a mean nun.
I mean,
Like,
I don't know about that. I mean, there are a lot that can be kind of because it's literally kind of like a at least here in the United States, for example,
mhm.
with Catholic schools, with of like nuns can be hard asses. Like my dad, when he was younger, went to a Catholic school as well as my uncle. One of the things
Nice.
that they even talk about and like
The
remembered
ruler.
from their child, yeah, the ruler on and like for example, my uncle he had failed religion class. The
Mhm.
nun went to my grandmother and said, "He will amount to nothing in life because of
Mm.
that." But I mean, jokes on that nun, because my grandma actually mailed her like the newspaper clipping when my uncle actually got his PhD in welding engineering. So,
Oh, very nice. But
yep,
yes,
yep.
I
But
have heard the
to me, that was
tales of
like
Catholic schools and their relentless beating of the children.
yeah, it definitely can be like with especially with like nuns and things like that. There are good ones. A lot of I won't even try to be one of those people of like oh every single like religious person like every priest every nun type of that like I'm not going to be one of those people because there are a lot that do good. I mean hell, uh, a, a lot of for example I'm in recovery. A lot of recovery places are church funded, they're church
Mhm.
ran.
Yes.
Like even the 12 step program is I mean I don't really follow it because of the fact of it being very Christian centered and I'm not, but people can't lie and like people can't say that the 12 step program has not helped people. It is
Yeah.
not like you can't say that it has not helped people get clean, stay clean, be better people, stop using substances, stop drinking alcohol, things like that.
Mhm. Yeah, it absolutely has. And well, and as someone who does not generally say very nice things about the Catholic Church, I will say this: that they have done a lot for the sick and the needy, and I will give them credit there, even if especially in the U.S., some of their activities there have been more nefarious
But a lot
over
of
the last
other
century.
But I
But
will also not be one of those types of people that just talks about them, as a lot of other religions will do similar. Like I remember this one, it was this joke post where this person was kind like they were actively trying to be an asshole, talking about, oh, we're gonna oh, I'm like messaging. It was like a mosque on Facebook or something like that, where they're like, oh, I'm gonna send a whole bunch of like pork there and like all these things like that. And meanwhile, this mosque was like, okay, yeah, absolutely, send it this way. We will use it in turn to feed the local homeless people of our area, and like all of
yeah,
these things like that.
that is true as well. But and for people who do that sort of shit, don't don't do that. You're not. Well, I mean, sure, donate food to them, but don't like
Yeah.
attempt to antagonize people in their church or whatever version of a church they have. It doesn't help anyone. It just kind of makes you an asshole, and it doesn't even accomplish the thing you're trying to accomplish. Right? And no one in history has ever been successfully antagonized into converting to whatever to any religion.
Yeah, through hate.
Right? No one has ever been successfully antagonized into believing anything. Right? There is a way to evangelize, and it's not through antagonization. And what was that you said, Stoner? Oh,
Let's see, in all seriousness.
yeah. My condolences about your aunt
Yeah.
or your great aunt,
Mhm.
which, for those of you who are unaware, great aunt is the aunt version of a grandparent.
It would be a grandparent's sister.
Yes.
Meanwhile,
And
I kind of joke about my great aunt because of the fact of so in high school I failed Spanish class, and so I failed Spanish class, right?
mhm.
My great aunt is Puerto Rican.
Oh, really?
So like I joke with my roommate who is whose family is Mexican, and he's one of the first generations that does not speak Spanish, and I joke how
Oh.
I'm like, oh, we really messed up our family. I'm like,
Yeah.
because it's like, yeah, like go to extended family and things like that, and just be like, yes, I no habla español.
So you're part Spanish or you're part Puerto Rican?
No, it's so my great uncle, my
Mhm.
grandpa's brother, was in the Peace Corps for years, and
Right.
while he was in the Peace Corps, he actually met my great aunt down in Puerto Rico. But he
Ah.
has lots of stories, like being down in like Panama during like the 1980s, 90s, and if you're familiar with like Central American like politics and history, you would know that was a very rough time like with like right around the end of like Pablo Escobar's reign, and like cocaine and civil wars and things. It
Mhm.
was a very very rough time for especially someone who's like of white descent down there, like not from any sort of racist reason, but because like they just didn't like foreigners.
Mhm.
And there was a couple times, like one of the times he says how like he basically survived because he was luckily fluent in Spanish, because living down there everyone speaks Spanish, so you kind of have to become fluent in Spanish, like
Right.
in order to
Um.
even just give out your daily
Yeah.
life.
Was he in Panama during the reign and the fall of Noriega?
I'm not 100% sure because he really doesn't talk too much about it,
Ah,
but
fair enough.
he was down there. I remember one story of like being down there with like a Catholic priest, actually, kind of back on a previous thing that we were mentioning about, and
Mhm.
them being stopped by like guerrilla rebels, essentially, and him just like this priest being like, what are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? They luckily left their passports in their hotel room, and my
Mhm.
great uncle just being like, just shut up. just shut up because he had been there long enough that he had a bit of a tan, so he was able to kind of pass as like one of the like was somewhat a local, and he was able to speak like with the local accents.
Right.
So it was literally just a do not say a thing. I will like me and the person that's driving us through here will talk and just kind of play it like a yeah. So we're taking this priest to because the Central America, even to today, is very Catholic.
Yes.
So they're just like we're going around to various villages for people to pray.
Mhm.
And he luckily managed to get out of there. But he actually has property down in Puerto Rico now.
Oh, nice. I've heard it is a nice place. Well, the nice places of it are nice.
Yeah.
Well, then again,
Though
I
at
guess
the
that's
same
true
time,
for any place.
unfortunately, I hear like if you look in the news, it does have unfortunately bad like a crime and murder rate down there.
Yeah.
Yet a lot of places like that do, unfortunately.
Yeah.
It's like
Or yes, I think Central America has like the highest murder rate per capita in like the world. It's
it's similar. I had a friend online. Uh, I hope they're doing all right, but they're from Argentina, I believe.
hmm.
Yeah, and it was in a case where like them talking about how like like there was a drive-by shooting outside of the apartment, and like their uncle was talking about going to the police, and their whole family just do not do that because the police are in the pockets, like
Of the
basically they
gangs.
have like the gangs in their
Yeah.
pockets and things like that. So if you go to the police saying, hey, so this is what happened, there was a drive-by shooting, this is what I saw, you've basically doomed yourself and your family.
Yeah. Is those areas are not
It's
nice area.
it's
It's a very
sad.
violent continent. Um, Very unfortunate. I mean, you can kind of understand why so many of them just fled or just fled and tried to get into the U.S.
It's yeah, a lot of people they're like, "Oh, stay there and fix your." It's it's so hard to do things like that. It's almost I do feel like I feel for anybody who has to like be in a situation where they have to leave their whole life for like their kids, for their family in order to like for them to be safe like
Yeah,
from death. It's
yeah. So I do have to credit El Salvador for seemingly pulling it off and kind of fixing things. I'm not sure if are you aware of what El Salvador has been up to over the past couple of years.
I am not, but from the sound of it, it's sounding decent because the fact of
So
you don't hear too much about El Salvador
yeah,
in the negative sense.
so they've done a couple things. One of the big things they did is Bitcoin is now legal tender in El Salvador. Okay.
Okay, interesting.
So, but also what's been getting the big headlines recently is, and there has been some negative press about this from from the usual suspects, the mainstream media. They have El Salvador, the president of El Salvador has basically declared war on the gang. Right? He just mass incarcerating all suspected gang members,
Oh,
and
I think I have because El Salvador obviously is the home of the like the infamous MS-13 gang
yes,
that's like from like all over central to even like
yeah,
southern like
it's in
southwestern American
Mexico.
states.
Yeah, and so the president of El Salvador, he put together some special like task force. They've just been mass arresting all suspected gang members and locking them up,
I have
and
actually been seeing that.
it's
I have actually
the
seen that.
crime rate has tanked. Right, it's significantly less
It was
crime
like
ever since.
it was, I'm trying to think. It was a similar situation in a couple. I think it was like actually Atlanta even, where it was like a couple like gang like gang members and like the people that are associated, like the gangs that are associated with these people, like these couple people, the murder rate went down by like a third in Atlanta, Georgia.
Yeah. It's and I say this as someone who is not at all pro cop, but when you have some of these societies where like the highest murder rates in the world, mostly caused by gang violence, you know, dealing with the gangs is a good way to fix this issue.
It's a funny thing too, where like a lot, like even here in the U.S., a lot of people talk about like, oh, the death rate from like like the gun death rate and things like that. The I want them to see like the amount where they're all like, oh, like all these mass shootings in the U.S. Yes, there is unfortunately a problem here in the U.S. that needs to be addressed. It's in my opinion, it genuinely is partially a mental health thing, but another large part of it is
the gang thing.
Gangs, because
lots of inner city gangs keep
isn't
murdering
the
each other in a row.
definition of a mass shooting here in the U.S. I believe it's either two. I believe it's either been dropped to two or to three.
It was two. It used to be. It used to be 4 fatalities, I think, and then it dropped to 4 casualties, and now it's 2 casualties.
And
which is
a lot of how these shootings are is like I know the whole stereotype of, oh, drive-by shootings, but that will happen, or just like people will pull up, shoot, and go because like again with I I feel like I've said it a few times here, but with being in recovery, I have been around not the greatest of people. I've had like personal like I've had interactions with people that are not the greatest. And these things happen. Like like they're not liked. Hell, even like these various gang members don't want other people mostly because that usually ends up getting like federal attention. But these like where they pull up, they and go. Like I remember being in an apartment, having someone over, them kind of stretch, and me just like glancing over and just thinking, "Oh shit, that's a Glock."
Yeah. But now, when you tell these people who are all up in arms about supposed gun violence those things,
that gang violence and just crime violence in general. I mean, I don't mean just the fact that obviously shooting someone for no reason is a crime, but like related to crime, like someone is trying to like rob a drug dealer specifically, not just like oh, I'm gonna rob someone, therefore I'm gonna be armed, something like that, but like specifically related to like illicit and illegal activities. There is there is violence that goes along with that. It's kind of hand in hand.
Yes, it very much is. And but now, when you tell these people these things, then well, let's be frank. When you tell them these things, this is when they call you racist because they think because the same people who do this think gangs means black.
Yeah,
no,
funny
gang
enough,
means
like
gang.
basically, I'd say 99% to higher of these type of gang banged. I mean, sure, I'll admit I live kind of out in middle of nowhere, Ohio, but these people, they were shit, they were about as white as me.
Yeah,
so it's like
I would assume the gangs in as you say middle of nowhere Ohio are gonna be pretty white.
Yeah. So,
now, if you go into Columbus, maybe they'll be blacker because that's. But at the same time, you go outside of Columbus, and they're all white gang, right? If you go into I don't know, where's a place that has a lot of that's mostly Latino? If you go into a mostly Latino area, the gangs are going to be mostly Latino.
It's going to be related to where you are, but it's all over.
Yeah. In general, if you go into an area that has mostly one group of people,
like for
then
a
the
while,
gangs of that area mostly that one group.
Yeah, for a while, our town was even jokingly called like a little Chicago in the sense that like per capita it had about the same like violent crime rate as Chicago. And
Dang,
yeah,
pretty bad.
like yeah, th- there's basically two things to do around here. Uh, meth and fentanyl, as it used to be, and heroin.
Mhm.
But like that's all there is here. It is depressing because like this is everything around me.
Hmm. Yeah, is the town itself kind of like decrepit and like falling apart? Is it one of those like dying towns that are you hear so much about?
Yeah, it's not as bad as some, but there are definitely areas where it's like I've there are areas in here that I've seen better in Detroit.
Damn. Or are you in like a really rural area? Is it more like a suburban area? What
It's
type? What?
so I live in town, so it's not it's really not very big, but like especially as far as like like states like New York or California is concerned, it's not big at all.
Right,
But
of course.
I live more in town, but there is like very rural aspects to us. Like around us, there's cow farms. Like as soon as you get out of the actual town, there's cow farms, there's corn farms. The corn is to feed the cows, soybeans to feed the cows, and things like that.
Oh, they feed the cows the corn. Don't I thought the cows don't they usually just eat the grass or?
No, they'll eat corn, because they will eat grass, but obviously you have to get more than just that in their diet due to selective breeding and all kinds of things. You
Oh,
have to specifically get them the nutrients that they have to eat to live in order to get, because a lot of the cows around are Angus cows.
oh.
So they're specifically like they have to have like all the meat, all the fat, all that on them in order to be ripe and ready to sell to market.
Mhm. And for what Erica said, sure. After the show is done, and you're done whatever with the stuff you're doing, yes, happy to have you explain what Crucible is. Um, Speaking of which, we are nearing up the 2 hour mark in about 3 minutes. Think we covered almost everything we wanted to, though there were, as usual, many
A lot of
deviations.
distractions. Yeah, I'll admit. Oh my god,
This
went
tends
off
to be
topic
the
a few
format
times.
of the show. We come up with, okay, we're
Yeah.
going to talk about this topic, and this topic. And then we start talking about the topic, talk about it for about 5-10 minutes, and then an hour of deviation.
I think we
Then
talked about the first two, but then kind of just gently, like barely touched on Ukraine.
yeah. The Ukraine talk turned into a World of Warcraft talk.
It really did. Yep. Just tell someone that out of context and be like, yeah, so our talk on the war in Ukraine ended up turning into World of Warcraft, and they'll be like, excuse me, what?
Yeah. We spent about 5 minutes on Ukraine and then like half an hour on World of Warcraft.
Yep, absolutely.
So yes, and I'm not sure, I assume you can hear me, Erica. I had now today discovered that Luna is a bit of a WoW nerd, and at some point, I'm gonna have to have both her and Heron on the show, Heron from Twitter, and just go full bore into World of Warcraft for like an hour or two. We're
Oh,
gonna have to do that at some point.
absolutely. I'm gonna talk all about my dwarf warlock. Oh,
Actually, I will say one thing, though I do hate the Alliance very much. I do have one Alliance character I play as. That is because, in
not
my
dwarf. Oh my
personal
gosh, my gnome
opinion,
warlock.
in my personal opinion, the strongest tank in the game, and I'm not sure how long you've played for, or if you know these new races and classes exist. I mean,
No,
I'm sure you know the class.
really
I'm not
not
sure,
familiar with recent World of
but
Warcraft.
the strongest tank in the game, in my opinion, is a Kulturan monk. And one of the races they added to the game in a battle for Azeroth, which was the eighth expansion, was Kulturan human. The
When did
humans
that
from
come out?
Kulturus. Sorry.
When did that come out?
Um,
If you know like a
let me
general
let me
year
look
around.
because I think maybe mid 2010s, maybe 2016, 2017. Hold on.
Yeah, that might be a little too
Battle
late
for
for me.
Azeroth. Came
Erica's
out.
like, enough with World of Warcraft. Time to end the
It came
show.
out in 2018.
Oh yeah, that would have definitely been kind of around after I stopped playing. Like I had kind of died down in it.
Understandable. Just real quick, before we end, I'm just curious, what expansion did you end? Was your last expansion?
I think it was just after Pandera.
Ah, all right. So there's a lot to catch up.
Yeah,
with,
a lot. Yeah.
yeah. All right. So with that, I will think it's time to end the show, as Erica has said.
Yep.
So to everyone, I
You're
glad to
right,
have you
Counter.
all
Got
with here
gotta
with
obey the
me.
Marine. Hoorah!
Yes, and to our lovely audience, hope you enjoyed the show. Hope you enjoyed all the nerding out about WoW and then WoW. Would you care to say goodbye, Kota? Oh, sorry, not Kota, Luna.
I was about to say, Code is here. Well, goodbye, everybody.
All right, and being that I am currently the only other person not on mute, I will also like to say goodbye. It's been my pleasure, even though it started out a bit rocky. I think we really did find our swing of things. And it has been my pleasure to be here with you these past 2 hours.
Yep, it's been my pleasure to just kind of rant for a while.
and with
go on.
And with that, I bid you adieu, au revoir, good night, and we'll
Sayonara.
see you next time, next week.